these type of headlines can almost come across as an old man just complaining that things aren't what they used to be, sort of thing. And I think a lot of us inherently agree with what he's actually saying, or at least the sentiment of it. This article right here from the Hollywood Reporter: Martin Scorsese's talked impact of Hollywood blockbusters on cinema. Quote, "Well, the industry is over." The Killers of the Flower Moon director told GQ magazine the major studios no longer support auteur voices as they see better risk and returns from easier to market tentpole franchises. Now, I don't think the studios have any obligation to the auteur or to the director, writer, whoever it is, because they are the ones who are ultimately putting up the money. Now, I do think the studios should listen to them more often, or kind of like give them more of the creative voice of the whole picture. But when some of these movies that are hundreds of millions of dollars, when they're investing that much money into it, I can understand completely why they wouldn't want to give the creative control of that over to someone from the outside who ultimately isn't going to have to reap the loss of it if the movie isn't successful, because the studio is going to have to endure the loss of that, not the director or the writer or whoever it may be. Because I mean, they're usually given their fee up front, maybe some back end box office gross of it, but I mean, even then, they don't really have the risk in it. So that's why the studios maintain control. Now, for smaller budget movies, they are more willing to give the director of it more control of it. But at the same time, we're not seeing a ton of those out there nowadays. I mean, and I think that's kind of what he's talking about with this sort of thing. Scorsese's added that major studios preferring easier to market popcorn movies that have franchise potential no longer have interest in supporting individual voices that express their personal feelings or their personal thoughts and personal ideas and feelings on a big budget. And what's happened now is that they've pigeonholed it to what they call indies. And that's true. The only time you really have a director or whatever have that kind of creative control of a big budget movie is if it's someone who is established like Martin Scorsese. I mean, they're usually given a little bit more leeway because of their track record. But yeah, I mean, if you want to have some type of creative say-so in it, then it's usually just those low budget indie movies. And like I said, I mean, I understand the sentiment and why from the studio's perspective, but I mean, I just kind of wish it wasn't the case. And that's why I've all maintained that I think indies should be there. We should see more of a resurgence of those. We should see like more of a resurgence of these medium budget movies that I'm talking like probably like $50 million movies, like something like that. Cause with that investment from the studios, are less likely to get more involved as opposed to these multi-$100 million movies that are coming from like Marvel and DC. And when budgets like that happen, the studio is going to basically have complete control over what's going on. And the directors, it's really kind of irrelevant who the director or the writer is. I mean, because the studio is the one making all the decisions. And that's why, as far as things like Marvel, I mean, all the movies that are coming out from Marvel now all feel like they're the same movie because they're basically all made by the same people. Scorsese kind of goes on, it's almost like AI making a film, and that doesn't mean that you don't have incredible directors and special effects people doing beautiful artwork. But what does it mean? What do these films, what will it give you aside from a kind of consummation of something and then eliminating it from your mind, your whole body, you know? So what is it giving you? Scorsese said in the magazine interview. And that's true. I mean, it's not AI. I mean, obviously not AI. I mean, but I mean, I can understand what he's saying because a lot of it is just very corporate. A lot of these big budget movies are just very corporate and committee built. I mean, it's like some of these, I refer to it as committee fiction. It's not fan fiction because it's not fans producing certain things, especially if it's built off of a pre-existing IP. It's a committee getting together and trying to figure out what's the best way to appeal to a mass market with this product right here. You got things that came out recently, though, that kind of bucked the trend on that, like One Piece. They weren't trying to figure like, how do we mass market it? How do we change it? It's like, no, we got good source material with the built-in fan base. Let's stick to that fan base and just try to appease them. And if that brings in other people, then great. And which it actually did successfully. And I hope that's a model that studios will follow in the future. But I don't know. Hollywood is usually slow to adapt to or kind of slow to pick up on things like that. So it'll probably be a while, but I think that's ultimately where things should go, or if they're not already heading in that direction. But yeah, going back to what he's saying, it's like, yeah, I mean, it is just kind of a junk food movie. A lot of these major big budget movies are, but I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing on the surface. I mean, I do think there is a time and a place for that. I mean, I like to have a bacon cheeseburger every now and then. I mean, I know it's not good for you, but I mean, yeah, it's a junk food movie. I mean, it's just something to distract you for a couple hours and that's it. There's nothing more, there's no more emotional impact. There's nothing super meaningful about it. I mean, it's just something to look at for a while and that's it. I mean, and I think that's fine, but the problem is though, those are usually a little bit more profitable than some of these more indie movies. And that's why the studios try to gravitate towards them. Unfortunately for studios though, those also have the potential for a bigger loss. And we've been seeing that this last year with terms like superhero fatigue. I mean, especially with Marvel's movies. I mean, that's a real serious thing. And we've seen with Marvel, I mean, especially actually just Disney as a whole. I mean, they've lost nearly $1 billion at the box office within the last year. And a lot of that is a result of their big budget movies and their franchise movies, because people are getting tired of them right now. I mean, we've seen other articles talking about how they're just losing at the box office, and this one describes it as it's in a bit of a slump. And it's like, I don't think it's a slump, because a slump implies that it can recover from it. And I don't think they can recover. I think Marvel hit its peak with their big budget movies, and it's kind of on the decline now. And it's just like any other cycle in cinema. I mean, everyone knows, I mean, people compare superhero movies to the Western, about how the Western was the biggest movie or the biggest type of movie for a while. And then it eventually died off. And we're seeing that with superhero movies. And then something else is going to take over. I think Martin Scorsese is upset that it's going to be more superhero, or not superhero movies, but more big budget movies with the studios having control of it. But I think we have seen signs that in not non-franchise movies have the potential. I mean, this last year, I mean, Barbie and Oppenheimer having the biggest opening weekend because of those two movies coming out at the same time was a huge deal. And it was, I can almost see it as a wake-up call, and it is a sign that fans agree with what Martin Scorsese is saying, and that we don't necessarily want just franchise movies. We want something that's interesting, something unique. And people have said that all the time, but Hollywood keeps putting out these big budget movies because those make money. But I mean, since we haven't been seeing them make a ton of money this last year, and the ones that have been making money like this, and then Mario was another one. I mean, I think people are more willing to accept non-franchise movies now, or more interested in seeing non-franchise movies. And I think studios are probably going to get the wrong idea with this. They're like, we need to make more, we need to make a Barbie franchise, we need to make a Mario or franchise or whatever. And I'm pretty sure those are in the pipeline and they're going to happen. But I mean, for right now though, it does go to show that, like, people want something unique, and we will see franchises of when the new unique thing comes out, we see a franchise of it that goes for a while and then it dies off. But I do agree with what Martin Scorsese is saying, that like, we need more of the mid-budget, more not necessarily just the independent, but the studios need to take a little bit of a risk on established directors with a voice and something interesting to say, as opposed to just trying to have the studio dictate everything that comes out and micromanage the whole filmmaking process. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.